Hey everyone, Brendan Snyder here. How are you? Thank you so much for joining me and welcome to another episode of New Music Finds. So this is where I like to collect together all the different things that I've purchased over the past week. I've got 19 things here, so 18 CDs and one box set that's got 8 discs in it itself. So either 19 things or 27 things. So it depends on how you look at it, but a lot of cool music here that I picked up over this past week. And I want to run through it with you. I get it from my local record stores, but also like Amazon, eBay, and other places like that. So all different places comes together to make a massive amount of music, which I have a lot of fun listening to and certainly going through with you guys here. If you are new to my channel and you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please do. It's going to keep you up to date on really cool videos like this. Also leave a comment, hit like, all those things do help and I would appreciate it. So I like to start off with brand new releases from this past week, which was September 1st of 2023. I can't believe we were this far through the year already, and just some amazing releases so far. This one just came out on CD, but it took a little while for me to get a copy of it. And it had actually dropped digitally a few weeks before that, but I just got mine. The brand new Bangalore Choir called Center Mass, and it's actually a 2 CD set, which I didn't know. I thought it was a bit pricey at the, I don't know if it was like 22 to 24, somewhere in that range. But it's got the brand new studio album, plus it's got Live in Hamburg 2022, so a new live recording. I haven't checked that out yet, so I don't know the quality of it, but very cool. And as they were recording it, and all the information on it was that this was supposed to be the direct album that should have come out after their debut album from 1992, On Target, which is a lost or a hidden gem from the glam metal world. It is so good, but it just ran under the radar. Musically, this has some tracks on it that easily could have appeared on that album, but as a whole, it's nowhere near as good as the debut album. That said, this is not a bad album. It is a great album for 2023, but it kicks off with 2 really amazing songs, and then there's another one thrown in partway through that it makes you feel like you're going to have that sort of an album like the one from 1992. But there is some other more modern rock type stuff that's on there and does balance it out. Like I said, it is a good album for 2023. But I don't know if it's as good as 1992, the way the press was promoting it. Okay, then we got Power Metalers Primal Fear in Code Red, a brand new album from them. I think this is like their 19th or something. It's I'm only just getting into this band, but as I understand it, they've got a lot of albums out. Ralph Sheepers from Gamma Ray. I got drawn to the band because I read somewhere that he had tried out for Judas Priest. He was in the running with Tim Ripper Owens. Tim got the gig, obviously, but Ralph Sheepers was apparently the runner-up, so to speak. And so Ralph Sheepers, along with Matt Sinner, formed Primal Fear in that Judas Priest style to go out and showcase that and write in that style and so forth. And certainly the early albums do have that feel and sound, but that's what drew me into it. They've moved on a little bit from that. They're more straight power metal at this point, but there is that. And a lot of cool stuff. Magnus Carlsen, guitar player, is on there. Alex Beirut from Voodoo Circle. So just lots and lots of cool guys. All right, next one up turned out to be way better than I expected it to be. It's Jethro Tull, Boxset, The Broadsword and the Beast. This is an 8-disc set, 5 CDs and 3 DVDs in here. The DVDs are only audio, which is a bummer. I would have liked some live video content. If you're going to put a DVD or a Blu-ray in, give me some video, because I'm not really interested in that special audio level content that they do on it. That's just me. I know some of you guys out there really dig that, and that's cool, but it is a duplicate of the other stuff that's on here, so it always kind of bums me out that I'm really paying for 8 discs when I only want 5 that are in here. And while there'll last so many box sets like this from Jethro Tull, only had 3 CDs in it, and it was typically 2 of them were live. I wasn't drawn to those, so this is the first one that I'm buying here, and that's because it's got a ton of associated recordings. So apparently they went into the studio and recorded 3 albums worth of material back in '81 and '82 for the release of this, but only released 10 tracks. 21 other studio songs that are not the ones on the album itself appear on here, and those are on disc 2. So you've got a double album worth of Jethro Tull to check out beyond the album itself. Plus this has a Steven Wilson remix. You do get 2 discs that are a live show, and then as I said, you've also got the DVDs in here. And this thing just has a massive book that's in it going through the full history of everything. So very cool book with lots of photos, pictures, and there's even a reproduction of their tour book in the back of this thing. If I can just, kind of looks like the regular stuff, but they do have, there it is, it's called production manual. So that is in here, and that was kind of a cool thing to throw in as well. So those were the 3 new releases. And then I got a bunch of other stuff, some stuff from eBay. Forcefield, the first album, this is the Japanese pressing. Forcefield was a Cozy Powell project. Also has on here Ray Fenwick on guitar. So I'm not too familiar with him, although I think he comes from Fairpoint Convention and played with a lot of different artists. He was one of those kind of guys, never really having his own band though that he stood out from. But it was sort of their thing, and then they get different singers for the next 3 albums. This guy here I did not recognize, just looking for it on here, Pete Prescott is the name of the vocalist on here. So that didn't ring a bell for me. Maybe you know who he is and you can tell me. I just haven't had a chance to look it up. But definitely into that. Really cool. I think it's mostly all covers. There's a few originals on there written by Ray Fenwick. But it's got Smoke on the Water, Set Me Free, Sunshine of Your Love, You Really Got Me by the Kinks. So they're just doing cool hard rock versions of those. All right, I had picked up a Magnum box set that came out last week as a new release. It was a compilation, I think from 78 to 82 or 83, somewhere in there. And so I got into that. One of the albums I didn't own was this one, Vigilante. So picked that up, enjoying it very much. This was their more popular period, this album and the follow-up album. I want to say that's called Wings of Heaven, but I could be wrong. But the album that came after that, very popular. And then last week was also the Vandenberg release, which had new vocalist Mats Levin. And so I went out and picked up Yngwie Malmsteen, this Facing the Animal. Sorry, I had to double check that on here. But Mats Levin sings on this album. It's the one and only Yngwie Malmsteen. This is also Japanese pressing. Got this at my local record store, Sound Exchange, which just has tremendous amounts of Japanese pressed albums and things like that. So you get the bonus tracks. I always think they have better artwork too. A lot of times they're in jewel cases when maybe the ones here in the US weren't. So stuff like that. And then I got a bit on Oasis due to Liam Gallagher, the vocalist, putting out a live album, which turned out to be exceptionally good. So I went and I bought the last Oasis album because, as I found out, the guys that were in here, once Noel Gallagher, his brother, left, they formed a band called something Birdie. And sorry, I apologize that's I'm drawing a blank on that because I'm relatively new to all these. These were not bands that I grew up with. But Liam Gallagher and the rest of the guys went off and formed the other group. Noel Gallagher did his own thing, the High Flying Birds. Well, this is the latest album, and I passed it up when it came out a month or 2 ago, whenever it did. This is called Council Skies, and it actually turned out to be very good, but it's not the rock kind of music like Oasis, so I understand why I passed it up in the first go around. But sometimes I wait on those albums until I'm actually in the mood, and I was really kind of looking for just more of that sound, and I wanted to hear what he was doing versus Liam was doing, and so I was exploring that on these releases here. Okay, then I went to Princeton Record Exchange in Princeton, New Jersey. Don't know if I posted the video to that yet, and if I haven't, I apologize. It will be probably tomorrow, but if otherwise, maybe it was yesterday. So I'm filming this one a little in advance, so I'm running through all the stuff that I picked up. And one that I picked up that just turned out to be so good was Wishbone Ash. Nouveau Calls. I'm trying to say that correct this time. I don't think I said it right the first time when I did it. It's been a reissue on Music on CD. I think the release is 1987. Turned out to be an all-instrumental album. And I was shocked. I was really digging the opening track, and I'm thinking, okay, cool, they're opening with an instrumental. Then song number 2 comes on, there's still no vocals, and I'm like, hey, what's going on with this? And I checked out, and it's an all-instrumental. They decided to make this, and it is just so good. So this has kicked off a whole Wishbone Ash thing. You'll see some more purchases from them probably next week. Peter Frampton, When All the Pieces Fit, turned out to be so good as well. I've got a lot of Frampton albums. I'm digging on the, the 80s release stuff that he did, but I've never been a huge Peter Frampton fan. I'm in the right mood. It works for me, but I gotta say, this album here, it's called When All the Pieces Fit, certainly fit for me. It was definitely on spot. I just loved this one so much. And yeah, it's 1989, and these are 80s flavored sounds. So I mean, if you're a fan of the 70s, you're probably not going to dig this stuff. But for me, it worked perfectly. So of course, I pulled out past Peter Frampton albums of the 80s, like Premonition and stuff like that. I picked this up, Heart, Greatest Hits, and that was because I found out that it was a 2-disc set, or 2 LP set originally. It had a best of and a live album. What I found out though is that there were 2 new studio tracks that were on the LP that got dropped when it was issued to CD. I'm so bummed by that. I thought I was getting everything. Usually, they wouldn't cut the new tracks, the new studio tracks. So I don't know. I think they just decided to go with greatest hits across the board. And so it was greatest hits in studio version, and then more of their hits, but done live. And there's some tracks on here like Rock and Roll, from Led Zeppelin. They do, it's a live version of it, and Long Tall Sally. And so they do some cool covers on here, which is kind of new, but really bummed by that. I hope they eventually reissue this as a 2 CD set with those studio tracks so that I can get them. But I have read and understand that those studio tracks turned up on other releases, box sets and stuff. So they are out there. I've got them, but they're just not on that collection, which kind of bummed me out. All right, the next one I picked up, which was pretty cool, Joey Moland. And I think he's a bass player for Badfinger, but he's a member of Badfinger. And this turned out to be really good. It rocks pretty hard. It was a 1992 Ryko disc edition, still in the green case. I don't have the green insert that's here, unfortunately. But, once those things break, it's unfortunate. I've always liked that about the Ryko, them being in the green disc. So this just turned out to be really good. I do have some early Badfinger, which I do like, but never checked out any of the solo stuff, so that was a lot of fun. Then I picked up Firefall, a 3-album set from the 80s, 80, 81, and 82. The albums Undertow, Clouds Across the Sun, and Break of Dawn. And I just recently picked up Break of Dawn for $1 on a record, but now got them on CD here. I still always prefer these things to be standalone and not grouped together, but when that's the only way to get them, as far as I know, these have never been pressed independently to CD. I could be wrong, but I've never seen them, so I decided to go ahead and pick this up. And definitely these first 2 albums, Undertow and Clouds Across the Sun, oh, those are so good. They just hit the spot for me. Because Firefall is another one of those bands that is sort of hit or miss for me. Sometimes it's a little too mellow. Other times it just rocks out perfectly. And I really just want it to rock out all the time. Those albums did a lot more of that and were great. And then I kind of got a grouping. That was sort of my rock stuff that I picked up from Princeton Record Exchange. But I also got some hard rock metal stuff. So How To, H-O-W-E, because that's Greg Howe and his brother Al Hal. And two, since there's two of them in here, I don't know if they were ever really trying to play on how to, like, is the question, how to do something or not. But it certainly sounds like that. This is called High Gear. As far as I know, I think this is their second album. Could be their first. This is 89. I think I have the other one, which was a little earlier, but I could be wrong in the reverse order. But I do now finally have both their albums on CD, and I'm digging that. Greg Howell is just a phenomenal guitar player. Exciter, Kill After Kill turned out to be really good. Got to peel that one off. I got the other ones off on this, but this is an A&M Records release. That's copyrighted on here is 1993, but when I look it up online, it says 1992, so I don't know if it came out earlier and then it came out a year later in the States, and that's why this has a 1993 date on it. But that turned out to be really good. Canadian thrash metal band from the early 80s, still kicking around 1993. And I picked up one of these releases maybe a month or two back, Urchin. And this one here called High Roller. Urchin is famous for having had Adrian Smith of Iron Maiden in the band before joining Iron Maiden. That they were a new wave of British heavy metal band that started out in the late 70s and did some recordings in 1980 and then broke up. I've got their second disc. This one here is not quite as hard rocking as the second one. I like the second one a bit better. But I will say this, really good music, and it's just a shame. They only put out, I think, 2 singles at the time, but had done some more recordings, and then, so it's all been gathered up. So they never actually released a full-length album at the time. So the 2 CDs that have since come out was what was gathered up. And that's just because, one, there's a big interest in new wave of British heavy metal music, but two, anything that's going to feature somebody from Iron Maiden in it is going to get a little extra push there. So that is probably why those are getting released. But they're very hard to come by. And I can't believe I got that for $5.99 used at Princeton Record Exchange. Something new, or new-ish, 2011, Dr. Living Dead. I think they're a Swedish band. I was trying to find information about them online. If you look at them there, they've kind of got a Suicidal Tendencies look to them, and they even wear a lot of Suicidal Tendencies hats and shirts and stuff like that. So definitely in that vein, but maybe a little bit more towards Municipal Waste. And they've definitely got the sort of heavy metal, hardcore, and punk sound all mixed together, which is a lot of what Suicidal Tendencies does. But one of the newer, era thrash bands, and this turned out to be really good, also on the High Roller Records label, which is what brought it to my attention. But this has just recently been reissued. I don't know if that's the recent reissue or an original pressing from 2011, but either way, some good stuff. If you're looking for some new thrash, definitely worth checking out. Here's one I just was taking a chance on because Ian Pace of Deep Purple is part of this, and it turned out to be really good as well. It just had such a great score. Perpendicular is the name of the group, and they are a Deep Purple tribute band. Ian Pace has played with these guys. Roger Glover has played with these guys. And I don't just mean on stage, but I mean on their studio albums. And I think Ian Pace may have played entirely on the last album as well. But this album, all the drums are done by Ian Pace. So it's kind of taken it up a notch from just being a tribute group to being something that's got maybe a little side gig from him. So all the stuff is new original written material, but it sounds like Deep Purple. So it's sort of like the Deep Purple album they never recorded. If you haven't checked this out and you're a huge Deep Purple fan and you want something to tide you over, check out Perpendicular, Human Mechanic. Very, very good stuff. And the final thing, Ravage, another one of the newer era thrash bands. This stuff is really good. It's an EP. I don't know if it ever had a jewel case release or anything, or just in this cardboard sleeve. I have their full-length album and didn't know that they had done anything else, so I was really glad to get a hold of that and add that to the collection. And so there you go, all in all, 19 different things, 18 CDs, the Jethro Tull box set, but like I said, that's got 8 discs in it, so 27 things. I've been having a blast listening to it all. You could hear from my voice and my expressions and everything. I made some really good finds on this this past week. And so whenever that happens, makes me excited, makes me happy. I hope you guys get some enjoyment out of that as well and can live a bit vicariously through, you know, my experiences and stuff like that. And maybe it's giving you some ideas to go out and search for something, because that's really the point of these videos. Show you what I got, and for you guys to go, hey, wow, I didn't know that was out there, and then you can go check it out too. All right, everyone, take care, have a good one, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.